What's up, YouTube? Tom Zell here. So today would have been James Stewart's 111th birthday. I decided to do my top 10 favorite James Stewart movies. He usually goes by either James Stewart or Jimmy Stewart, but he was a legend in the golden age of Hollywood. Like back in the golden age of Hollywood, there was some really great actors in that era, including James Stewart, Cary Grant. Lots of, I mean, I do love watching some old classic films once in a while because it's interesting how far we came from films. And Jimmy Stewart has been in some really amazing classic iconic films over the years. So with that being said, here's my 10 favorite James Stewart movies. Coming in at number 10 is the film The Glenn Miller Story. Now, in this, James Stewart plays the title role of Glenn Miller, who's a poor trombone player with dreams of fame. And, eventually, through years of hard work and determination, he is able to start his own band, and they become one of the most successful groups of the big band era. So, with a wife played by June Allison, and one of the biggest songs in America, Moonlight Serenade, Miller ends up having an aura, but at the onset of World War II, Miller enlists, giving up his fame and success to help entertain the troops stationed in Europe and all. I remember watching this on TCM. I thought Jimmy Stewart was terrific as the role of Glenn Miller. Now I didn't really know a whole lot about Glenn Miller or anything, but Stewart really played that role perfectly. I mean, James Stewart, who that guy could sing, and he put out some pretty good tunes as the role of Glenn Miller. Now, this movie got released in 1954, and it's a film that I think that probably still holds up today. It's pretty much a classic, really good film, and Jimmy Stewart gave a really great performance here. Even Louis Armstrong was also in this as well. You also had Harry Morgan, Charles Drake, some pretty good old timing cast members. All right, coming in at number 8. Coming in at number 9 is Anatomy of a Murder. Now, in this, James Stewart plays a Michigan lawyer named Paul Beigler, who takes the case of Army Lieutenant Manon, played by Ben Garazza, who murdered a local innkeeper after his wife, played by Lee Remick, claimed that he raped her. So over the course of a intensive trial, Beigler prepares with District Attorney. He pretty much teams up with District Attorney Lodwick, played by Brooks West, and a out of town prosecutor named Claude Dancer, played by George C. Scott, to set his client free and all. But the case ends up resting on the victim's mysterious business partner, played by Catherine Grant, who's been hiding a very, very dark secret and all. This was a pretty interesting crime legal film. Jim Stewart was really great. George C. Scott was terrific in this. I mean, Jim Stewart as a lawyer, I thought that was pretty cool casting. He really has a lawyer look to him, and it had some interesting twists and turns. This was a classic film noir back in those, and man, the movie even has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, so loads of people love this film as well. And the movie got released in 1959. It's a really interesting legal film. I mean, I remember watching this on TCM as well. It's a interesting little film. I mean, it's probably not a classic as most of Stewart's other work, but it's still pretty decent. Coming in at number 8 is Winchester 73. Now, in this, James Stewart plays a character named Lynn McAdam, who pursues notorious outlaw Henry Dutch Brown, played by Millard Mitchell, into Dodge City, Kansas. So there, in an effort to flush out the criminal, McGowan ends up entering a sharp shooting contest and wins top prize, which is the Winchester rifle. So, like, desiring the rifle for himself, he sneaks into McAdams' room and makes off with it. And then, like, after the rifle is missing, McGowan wants to like chase down Brown across the state to get his rifle back. This is a pretty interesting Western film. Now James Stewart has done loads of Western movies over the years, and this is a pretty good one. Now, it got released in 1950. It was directed by Anthony Mann. It also featured Dan Daria, Shelley Winters was in this, Rock Hudson. Some pretty good old-timey actors were all in this, including Tony Curtis. Pretty good cast members, and it's a really interesting Western. I mean, it's like a cat and mouse thriller. If you guys never seen Winchester 73 yet, it's another good James Stewart movie worth checking out. Coming in at number 7 is The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. Now, this movie is actually getting remade by Paramount, by the way, so there's like a remake of this in the works. So, and the original starred James Stewart and John Wayne, and in it, you got James Stewart as a character named as a Senator Stoddard who attends the funeral of a local man named Tom Dolphine, played by John Wayne, in a small town. So, like, flashing back when he learned of Donovan saved Stoddard, then he like back when he was like back when he was roughed up by a group of outlaws terrorizing the town, led by Liberty Valance, played by Lee Marvin. And so, like, as the terrorities safety, is hung in the balance, Donovan and Stoddard are like two of the only people standing up to him, and so, like, there's like flashbacks. It's actually more of a flashback film because John Wayne's character died, so there's like a flashback sequence of what happened, before his passing. And I really like the chemistry between both James Stewart and John Wayne. I mean, John Wayne was the godfather of westerns. He done lots of westerns back in the days. And this was an interesting western to watch. I mean, James Stewart and John Wayne, those two just had really great chemistry with one another. Lee Marvin was terrific in this. And I'm really curious to see how Paramount will handle a remake of this. I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, I'm all for a remake because, hey, if the movie stinks, who cares? Still got the original, so I'm down to see how good a remake would do. But the original, if you guys never seen the original, give that one a shot. I think it's another James Stewart movie worth checking out. Like, if you guys want to check out some of the old-timey classic films, this is definitely one I think you'll enjoy. Coming in at number 6 is The Philadelphia Story. Now, this film stars Katharine Hepburn as a woman named Tracy Lord, who's a Philadelphia socialite who has split from her husband C.K. Dexter, having played by Cary Grant, due to both of his drinking and her overly demanding nature. So Tracy prepares to wed a wealthy man named George Kitred, played by John Howard. So, like, she ends up crossing paths with both Dexter and praying reporter Macaulay Connor, played by James Stewart. So, like, she ends up having feelings for all three men, and so, like, she has to choose which one she loves the most. And it's a pretty good little romance film. This is a one of the most classic romance movies of that era. The film, like, Katharine Hepburn, Cary Grant, and James Stewart, those three were the classic actors of the time, and they all had really good chemistry with one another. Katharine Hepburn had a good performance here. Cary Grant was great. Yeah, I'll be interested to see like a remake of this as well, but. The Philadelphia Story is a really good one. Like, they show this movie on TCM loads of times, and it's a pretty decent romance film. Like, I guess you could say this was like the love triangle before love triangles like from Twilight and stuff before they became popular. Coming in at number 5 is the Alfred Hitchcock classic Vertigo. Now, in this, Jim Stewart plays a character named John Scotty Ferguson, who's a retired San Francisco police detective who suffers from arachnophobia. And so, Madeline is a lady who, Madeline, by the way, is played by the legendary Kim Novak. So, anyway, she's like a lady who leads him to high places. And so, a wealthy shipbuilder who is who's a acquaintance from college days, approaches Scotty and asks him to follow his beautiful wife Madeline. And so he fears she is going insane, and he believes that she has also been possessed by a dead ancestor who has committed suicide. So Scotty ends up being skeptical, but agrees to the assignment after he sees the pretty much the ghost of Madeline. Now this movie is weird. I mean, this was I guess you could say a M Night Shyamalan movie of that era. This seriously felt like it could have been either a Twilight Zone episode or an M Night Shyamalan film. But this movie was of course directed by Alfred Hitchcock, who's worked with Jim Stewart loads of times before. I mean, Kim Novak was great. Jim Stewart and Kim Novak had worked together before as well. They both had pretty good chemistry in this. And I've not, last year I did my 10 favorite Alfred Hitchcock movies, and Vertigo was pretty much in that list. I mean, the movie got released in 1958, and it's a pretty interesting film noir film. It's a crime thriller, it's a mystery film. There's suspense in it. Really classic Alfred Hitchcock film. If you guys never seen it, give it a go. I think you'll also enjoy it. Coming in at number 4 is Harvey. Now, in this, James Stewart plays a character named Elwood P. Dowd, who's a wealthy drunk who starts having visions of a giant rabbit named Harvey. So, Elwood lives with his sister Veta, played by Josephine Hall, and her daughter, played by Victoria Horn. So, Vita, ends up worrying that Elwood has gone insane, and in the process of trying to have him committed, Veta admits that she occasionally sees Harvey herself, and so the director of the mental home named Dr. Chumley, played by Cecile Kellaway, tries to recycle his duty to help Elwood with his own growing experiences with Harvey and all. This movie is it's a really funny classic comedy. They actually got a real bunny to be in this, who is also named Harvey, by the way, so that's pretty cool. Now, like the Liberty film, there's actually Netflix is actually going to do a remake of this as well, so we got another remake of a James Stewart movie coming. And Harvey is a pretty good film. This is definitely a movie you could probably watch on Easter as well. Granted, it's not an Easter movie, but it does have a bunny and all. And I guess you could say this was a lighter Donnie Darko. The movie Donnie Darko kind of felt like a horror version of Harvey. If I think that's where they got Donnie Darko from. It's from Harvey, really. But anyway, Harvey got released in 1950, and it's a classic 50s comedy. Give it a go. I think you'll enjoy it. Coming in at number 3 is pretty much the movie that I believe scored him a Oscar nomination, and that is Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. Now, in this, James Stewart plays a guy named Jefferson Stewart, who winds up appointed to the United States Senate. So he gains the mentorship of Senator Joseph Payne, played by Claude Rains. But however, Payne isn't as noble as his reputation would indicate. So he ends up becoming involved in a scheme to discredit Smith, who wants to build a boys' campsite where a more lucrative project could go. So determined to stand up against Payne and his corrupt peers. Smith ends up taking his case to the senator of Florida. This is a political comedy like before. I mean, this movie got released before politics became a bigger thing as it was now. And I think this movie could probably work today with today's audience, like with the political changes we got going on now. And I think this movie could probably be fitted for today's audience. And also, it had a pretty good other cast members, like Gene Autry was in this. You also had Edward Arnold, Thomas Mitchell. Some pretty good legendary actors were in this. And the movie got released in 1999, same year as The Wizard of Oz, of course. It's a really good political satire film. You know, James, like, the film actually scored an Oscar nomination for Best Story. Back in the days when the Oscars was around, they did not have the screenplay categories. They had a Best Story instead. But anyway, I'm surprised James Stewart didn't score an Oscar nomination for this, to be honest with you. But anyway, it's still a really good film. It's pretty much a Dirty's classic. It's really good. I mean, the movie was directed by Frank Capra, who also directed James Stewart in another classic that I'm going to talk about here in a bit. But yeah, Mrs. Smith Goes to Washington it's a really classic 1939 film. Of course, my favorite movie of that era is The Wizard of Oz, but Mrs. Smith Goes to Washington will probably also be in that list for the best 1939 films. If you guys never seen Mrs. Smith Goes to Washington, it's another James Stewart movie worth checking out. Coming in at number 2 is Rear Window. Now, this movie was also directed by Alfred Hitchcock, and in it, James Stewart plays a professional photographer named L.B. Jeff Jeffries, who pretty much is confined in a wheelchair after breaking his leg while getting into a action shot at a auto race. So, like, he pretty much spends his time pretty much being a creep, I guess you could say. And he spends his time looking out at the rear window, observing the neighbors, and like he ends up beginning to suspect that a man across the street, across the country yard, may have murdered his wife. So he pretty much enlists the help of his high society fashion consultant, including his as well as his girlfriend Lisa Fremont, and his visiting nurse to investigate the murder. Now, the one that plays like his wife in this is, by the way, played by Grace Kelly, who before Meghan Markle before Meghan Markle became the American princess, Grace Kelly was actually the first American princess. So there's a little tip for you there. Anyway, yeah, Rear Window was a really cool. This movie felt like an Alfred Hitchcock period. It has like so much suspenseful moments. It is really creepy at times. I guess you could say James Stewart's character was kind of creepy too, because I mean, he spent his whole day looking, like pretty much being a peeping Tom. But anyway, the whole movie is pretty much James Stewart in a house, searching, investigating pretty much a murder, across the street, and it's a really classic one. It's a classic Alfred Hitchcock flick. Like, if you guys never seen it, it's another James Stewart movie worth checking out. Alright, my number one favorite James Stewart movie of all time is, of course, It's a Wonderful Life. This is I think it's James Stewart's best film ever. This movie is a Christmas classic. I mean, Jim Stewart, he plays the role of George Bailey, who, like, spends his entire life, pretty much giving himself to the people of Bedford Forest. So like he has like always longed to travel, but never had the opportunity in order to prevent rich skin-filled Mr. Potter from taking over like the entire town. But like on Christmas Eve, he pretty much loses the business while like attending his deposit and. Like, he, of course, gets a visit from an angel, so the angel has to help him realize the true meaning of Christmas and its true meaning of of family as well. Like the movie is all about like family. It's a uh, it's a Christmas classic. I mean, this movie was also directed by Frank Capra, and it also had a pretty good cast too. Lina Barrymore was in this, who played Mr. Potter. Donna Reed played his wife. Of course, it has that classic line where that little girl says, "Look, Daddy, teacher says every time a bell rings, um, every every time a bell rings, you should make a wish or something like." It's been a while since I've seen it, to be honest, so I can't really remember the whole line. But anyway, oh yeah, it's every time a bell ring, an angel gets his. Yeah, that's the line. All right. Anyway, boy, how come I froze up on the line? Anyway, yeah, I mainly watch this movie around all the time around Christmas time. I mean, believe it or not, I actually saw this movie in theaters back in 2013, 2014, because at AMC they were doing like this classic program where they were showing classic films in cinema. So I was like, you know what? I've seen It's a Wonderful Life before, but never seen it on the big screen. So I saw it on the big screen, and I really enjoyed watching it on the big screen. The whole movie is, of course, in black and white. You know, he has to pretty much in it. George Bailey like ends up having so many problems that he's like thinking about. He pretty much ends up wanting to like commit suicide. So the Angels ends up this so like when he sees his life in flashbacks, he rethinks his suicide and wants to go back, being with his family and all that. It's a really good one. It got released in 1947, and it gets shown around Christmas time, like every year. I believe Fox always shows this film. TCM shows it all the time around Christmas time. It's a classic Christmas film worth checking out. If you guys still never seen it, give it a go. To me, it's James Stewart's best work. Him as George Bailey is really great. He had really nice chemistry. Like, I really liked his interaction with the angel. And, like, the ending is maybe one of the most best endings I've ever seen to a Christmas film. Such a fantastic movie. I remember hearing words that they were supposed to do some sort of sequel to this, which I don't know how you could do, but hey, should be. Although, I haven't heard about a sequel about this being made for, like, years, so I don't know if it's dead or what, but anyway, if they ever do a remake or a sequel or whatever, it'll probably won't be the same as the original, because the original is just a classic. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Let me do the quick rundown. Number 10, The Glenn Miller Story. 9, Anatomy of a Murder. Sorry. 8, Winchester 73. 7, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. 6, The Philadelphia Story. 5, Vertigo. 4, Harvey. 3, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. 2, Rare Window. 1, It's a Wonderful Life. Now, James Stewart has been loads of other stuff around when he was around. Let me put this. Now, granted, I have not seen every one of his films, so anyway, a few other stuff he was in. The Man from Laramie, The Shop Around the Corner, Broken Arrow, Rope, You Can't Take It With You. His last film was An American Tale. Was one of the American Tale films. Bell Book Handler he was in. He's been in some classic films. Yeah, if you guys ever get a chance, give some of the classic movies like from the 30s, 40s, and 50 eras a shot. There's some really interesting classic movies from there's been some really great movies from that era, and lots of the best ones Jimmy Stewart was in. So yeah, that's pretty much all. Let me leave it to you guys. What are some of your favorite James Stewart movies? Drop a comment below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell for more notifications. This here is Tom Sells signing off.